Hello students. Today I am going to discuss with you about the third division of the plant kingdom, that is the Pteridophyta. And the Pteridophytes are considered as the largest living group of primitive vascular plants. And from the name itself, pteridophytes, you can make out that the meaning pteron means feather. So these plants, they do have feather-like leaves. So they are called as the pteridophytes. The independent plant body, which is the main plant body of this group pteridophytes, is the sporophyte. And the sporophyte is differentiated into true roots, true stem, and true leaves. And here in these plants, the primary root is short-lived, which is replaced by the adventitious root. And the stems are usually herbaceous. You may not find any woody plants in them, and the stem is branched also. And the leaves may be small ones, microphyllous, smaller leaves, or it may be macrophyllous, larger in size. All right. In small microphyllous plants, Lycopodium is an example. Then macrophyllous plants, pteris or pteridium, these two are examples. The ferns, you will find feather-like leaves of bigger ferns, which is normally grown in the gardens as ornamental plants also. Now, all the vegetative parts of the plant possess vascular tissue. The xylem and the phloem are seen from this group onwards in the plant kingdom. So, the xylem and phloem, which are organized into xylem groups and the phloem groups and as stele. Now, the reproduction in pteridophytes by the formation of spores, and the spores are produced in the sporangia. Okay, so the sporangia are seen on the ventral side of the fertile leaves. The fertile leaves or the sporangia bearing leaves are called as the sporophylls. Okay, sporophylls, you will find the spores on the ventral side of the sporophylls. And this sporophylls and the spores you will find very clearly in the case of ferns. Ferns you are more familiar, that is why I am giving the name of sperms. And the sporangia may be in one group or singly or in groups also. The sporangia may be seen in single or in groups. Now, the sporophytes bearing sporangia, which are called as the, which are subtended by the leaf-like appendages, which is called as the sporophylls. And in some cases, the sporophylls may form distinct compact structures, which are called as the strobili or the cones. Okay. So, in some higher pteridophytes, you will find the sporophylls having strobili or the cones. Example is Selaginella equisetum. The sporangia produce spores by the meiotic divisions from the spore mother cells, and these spores germinate and they give rise to the multicellular free-living prothallus. So the spores germinate and produce the prothallus, which is the thalloid part, which is the photosynthetic gametophytic part of the pteridophytes. Now, the gametophytes require cool, damp and shady places to grow, and they require water also for their growth as well as for fertilization. Like the bryophytes, they required water for fertilization. So, in pteridophytes also water is required for fertilization, and the gametophytes bear the male and the female sex organs. The male sex organ is called as the antheridia, and the female sex organ is the archegonia, like the bryophytes. Okay, and the water is required for the transfer of the antherozooids, the male gametes, and the male gametes are released from the antheridia, and through the water the antherozooids would reach the mouth of the archegonium, and thereby fertilization takes place and the zygote will be formed. And the zygote produces a multicellular sporophyte, and that sporophyte is the prominent or the dominant phase of the pteridophytes. Okay. Now, in majority of the pteridophytes, all the spores formed are similar. In the sporophytes, the spores formed are of similar kinds. So, such plants are called as homosporous. Alright. And in some other cases, so homosporous, example is Lycopodium. And in some other pteridophytes, you will find two kinds of spores, the macrospores and the microspores. Okay, and this you will find in case of Selaginella, Salvinia. These are the examples. So there you will find the heterosporous condition, and this heterosporous plants, they produce microspores. Those are the male gametophyte, and the megaspores are the female gametophyte, and they contain the male as well as female gametes in them, and the fertilization takes place. Alright, so the heterosporous and homosporous plants are there, and these megaspores and the microspores, they germinate and they give rise to the male gametophyte and the female gametophyte. Okay, now the female gametophytes are retained on the parent sporophytic plant for some time, and the development of zygote into the embryo takes place within the female gametophyte. Okay, so the embryo is formed in the gametophyte. So this is the beginning of the seed habit. Now from this onwards, the higher divisions of the plant kingdom, you will find the seed habits. Okay, seed habits will be seen in the next group or next division of plant kingdom. So here the formation of the embryo in the female gametophyte is the precursor of the seed habit in the plant kingdom. The pteridophytes are classified into four classes. Coelopsida, the first one, example is Coelothum. Then the second class is Lycopsida, example is Selaginella. Then third class Sphenopsida, example is Equisetum. And the fourth class Pteropsida, examples are Dryopteris, then Adiantum. So many pteridophytes are there. Now these pteridophytes are economically important also. They have a certain ornamental value. Many ferns are grown as ornamental plants in gardens for their large and showy leaves. Then some of these pteridophytes are used as medicines. From the petioles and rhizomes of the plant Dryopteris is used in the treatment of deworming medicine, anti-helminthic medicine. Drug is made from the Dryopteris. Then Lycopodium is another pteridophyte which is used in the treatment of rheumatism, and certain disorders of lungs and kidneys. Then adiantum roots are used to cure throat infections. So some medicinal value also for these pteridophytes. Then some pteridophytes, they are rich source of starch, so they are used because of their nutritive value. Now the next division of plant kingdom is the gymnosperms. Okay, so these are the plants with naked seeds. Only seeds are there, no fruits, so we call it as naked seeded plants. And most of the gymnosperms, they have become extinct now, and there are only very few living species. 900 species of gymnosperms are existing now, and these gymnosperms are dominant in the Himalayan ranges, so in the hilly areas and in the cold climates, cooler northern region of Europe and North America, Asia, all these cooler places only you will find the gymnosperms. Very few species live in the plains. And in our country, in India, the conifers are mainly the pines, spruce, cedar, cypress. All these are the conifers or the gymnosperms which we found in our hilly areas. And the cycads is an example. Cycads are the ones which are growing in the plains. Now the living gymnosperms are mostly woody plants, and very few of them are bushy shrubs. Now the plant body is the sporophytic part. The sporophyte, which is differentiated into true root, stem and leaf. The plant body, which is the sporophyte. Now I have written the examples. The sequoia, which is the tallest tree in the world, which is a gymnosperm, and the smallest gymnosperm is Zamia pygmea, which is about 25 centimeters in height. And these plants, they possess well developed taproot system, and in some cases, in some gymnosperms, the root system has got some association with the fungus, which is symbiosis. So the gymnosperms roots having a symbiotic association with fungus and forming the mycorrhiza. So for example, in Pinus, you will find the mycorrhizal roots. The stem is usually erect, solid, woody, and normally branched, but in cycas, the stem is unbranched. Then the plants possess vascular tissues, that is xylem and phloem, and the xylem and phloem are arranged in vascular bundles. Now the gymnosperms are heterosporous. They are heterosporous. What does it mean, heterosporous? They produce two types of spores, the microspores and the megaspores. Alright, micro means the male and the mega is the female. And these spores are formed in the sporangia. Now there are two types of sporangia, and the sporangia are seen on the special leaf-like structures, which are called as the sporophylls. Okay, and in pteridophytes we have seen the sporangia are seen normally on the leaf itself. So the leaf is called the sporophyll. Now here there are specialized leaves which is having the micro and the megasporangium. So they are the sporophylls. And the microsporangia is called as the pollen sacs, which are seen on the microsporophylls. and the megasporangia or the ovule, which is seen on the megasporophyll. So these are special spore producing leaves. The male microsporophyll, the female megasporophyll. Okay. Now the sporophylls are usually formed as groups, which are called as the cone or strobilus. Cone and strobilus are singular. Cones and strobila, it is the plural of it. And the cones are generally unisexual. That means the male cones, microsporangium, or you can say the pollen cones, and the female cones or the seed cones. So they are separate. The male cones are normally short-lived, but the female cones are long-lived, and they contain, or the female cones, they remain attached to the plants for several years till the seeds mature. Then the pollen sac produces the pollen grains, which are very light, and pollination is done with the help of wind. So wind pollination is taking place, and some of the pollen grains come in contact with the ovules. Now the ovules are normally remaining exposed on the megasporophyll, the spore bearing leaf. So the ovules are exposed, and normally the ovules are surrounded by the integuments, we call the layers of cells, which is protective in function, and the ovule encloses the nucellus, and these are different cells, and the female gametophyte is formed from the haploid megaspore, and the female gametophyte contains the archegony. Now the male one, the male gametophyte, the pollen grain germinates inside the ovule, and then the fertilization takes place. So the pollen grain, when it germinates, a pollen tube is formed which will contain two male gametes, and these male gametes fertilize the egg, forming the diploid zygote. Okay. Now after the fertilization, the male gametes, for the fertilization, the male gametes are carried to the archegonia through the pollen tube. Now this pollen tube formation you will find in the flowering plants, in the higher plants also, and with the help of this pollen tube, fertilization occurs, and here there is no requirement of any water for the fertilization, but in bryophytes, pteridophytes, you have seen for the fertilization, for the male gametes to reach the female gametes, the water is required. So here in this division of plants, gymnosperms, you will not find any requirement of water for fertilization. So after the fertilization, the pollen grains and the ovule, fertilization takes place, zygote is formed. The zygote, which is diploid, which develops into the embryo. Okay, now the embryo will be enclosed within the ovule, and the wall of the ovule becomes the seed pod. Okay, now during the development of the seed, some food or the endosperm is stored in the seed itself, which provides nutrient for the development of the embryo. Okay, now the seeds of gymnosperms, they do not occur inside a fruit, so that is the reason they are called the naked seeded plants. So they are naked and they remain attached to the megasporophyll. So when the seeds are dry and ripe, they are shed, and each seed contains the sporophyte, the young sporophyte in the form of the embryo, which is present in the endosperm or along with the endosperm, and the seed is protected by the seed coat, and the endosperm is used by the seed for its germination. Alright, so these gymnosperms, they do have adaptations to live on the land conditions. So presence of vascular system for conduction of water and minerals, then well developed mechanical tissue for support, and the stem or the trunk of these trees are very woody, very strong. Then pollen grains are formed in large numbers, and megasporangium into the ovule. The transformation is taking place, and the female gametophyte is forming inside the ovule. There it is protected. Okay, so all these are the land adaptations for the gymnosperms. Now, the gymnosperms are also economically important in the sense many of the gymnosperms like thuja you will find in our common gardens. So these are seen as ornamental plants. Now the leaves of cycas and thuja are used as fillers in the where the florists make bouquet and things like that. So they use these kind of leaves for decorations. Now many gymnospermous trees, their wood is very solid wood. So the wood is actually soft wood, which is light weighted, though they look massive, and they are used extensively in building materials, in making furniture, then packing cases, matchboxes. So for making paper, also paper pulp. So these gymnosperms are used as a source of wood. Then some gymnosperms, the stem and the seeds are used as food. Cycads, stem and seeds of the cycads are used as starch. Then some seeds of some cycads are edible. Then pinus seeds are used as dry fruits, the chilgoza, what we call. So that is the dry fruit from pinus. Then medicinal use also from these gymnospermous plants. Some of them produce medicine which is called as ephedrine. So ephedrine is an ingredient in the cough syrup. So to treat asthma, bronchitis and all, this ephedrine, which is extracted from the ephedra species of gymnosperm. Then the gum is produced and extracted from the cycas. Then some of these are used in the treatment of tumors. Then anti-cancer drugs are also, some constituents are extracted from some of these gymnosperms. And many gymnosperms produce essential oils, which are used in the perfumes and as flavoring agents also. Some of them produce some gums and resins, which are also used.